Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform and also welcome you to the new semester. Let's begin it with week 1, and I recommend you to see the course outline or syllabus before starting the lessons of week 1. So here is a video audio visual lecture by me, Faisal Ahmed, faculty member, Department of English, World University of Bangladesh. Let's begin. Introduction to Romantic Literature. The title of this course is Romantic Literature 2, and I'm supposed to take this course with you throughout the whole semester. The course code of which is ENG 409. In this lesson you will learn the definition of Romanticism, philosophy of Romanticism, causes of Romanticism, and characteristics of Romanticism and Romantic Literature, major poets and authors of Romantic Literature, and short biography of John Keats, Jane Austen, and Lord Byron, who were selected poets and authors for you in this semester. So what is Romanticism? Which is started with the publication of lyrical ballads jointly by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge in 1798, and it ended with the crowning of Queen Victoria in 1837. Romanticism, also known as the Romantic era, was an artistic, literary, musical, and intellectual movement that originated in Europe towards the end of the 18th century, and in most areas was at its peak in the approximate period from 1800 to 1850. Romanticism was characterized by its emphasis on emotion and individualism, idealization of nature, suspicion of science and industrialization, and glorification of the past, with a strong preference for the medieval rather than the classical. It was embodied most strongly in the visual arts, music, and literature, but had a major impact on historiography, education, chess, social sciences, and the natural sciences. It had a significant and complex effect on politics, with Romantic thinkers influencing conservatism, liberalism, radicalism, and nationalism. The movement emphasized intense emotion as an authentic source of aesthetic experience, placing new emphasis on such emotions as fear, horror, and terror and awe, especially that experienced in confronting the new aesthetic categories of the sublime and beauty of nature. It elevated folk art, an ancient custom, to something noble. Although the movement was rooted in the German Sturm and Drang movement, which preferred intuition and emotion to the rationalism. German Sturm and Drang movement was a literary movement, or German literary movement, which preferred The English Romanticism rooted from the German Romanticism. And the English Romanticism preferred intuition and emotion to the rationalism of the Enlightenment. The events and ideologies of the French Revolution are also proximate factors, since many of the early Romantics are cultural revolutionaries and sympathetic to the revolution. Romanticism assigned a high value to the achievements of heroic individualists and artists, whose examples it maintained would raise the quality of society. In the second half of the 19th century, realism was offered as a polar opposite to Romanticism. So realism is the direct opposite of Romanticism. Philosophy of Romanticism. The roots of philosophical Romanticism can be found in the work of Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Immanuel Kant. Rousseau, who is credited with the idea of the noble savage, uncorrupted by artifice and society, thought that civilization fills man with unnatural wants and seduces him away from his true nature and original freedom. Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains, Rousseau said. Emotion is more fundamental to the human experience than logic. Imagination is more powerful and necessary than logic. So, from the philosophers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Immanuel Kant, the Romantic English writers are influenced to write romantic literature, where imagination is preferred over reality or logic. The individual is more important than the collective persons. So here subjectivity is preferred over objectivity. Nature is a sure path to spiritual and moral growth. So spirituality, morality, nature, imagination, emotion, these things are prioritized and preferred in Romanticism or Romantic thought or philosophy of Romanticism. The process of conceptualizing the romantic intuition of man and being and the doctrines resulting therefrom, also the movement with its witnessing documents in which this process transpired historically. Romanticism views man as pure, vital activity, generative of self and of the world, and as a finite principle open to an infinite, revealing itself interiorly as the inexhaustible self-generative force of life, which is developed through determinate expressive forms that can always be transcendent. Romanticism views reality as the immanent determination of such activity. Historically, Romanticism has been the expression of this vision in the complex culture succeeding to and reacting against the Enlightenment and embracing all aspects of life: literary, artistic, political, social, religious, and scientific as well, which is natural scientific or natural sciences, not the logic or matter-based science. Causes of Romanticism. Romanticism was partly a reaction to the Industrial Revolution, the social and political norms of the Age of Enlightenment, or Neoclassicism, and the scientific rationalization of nature, all components of modernity. Romanticism was a revolt against the aristocratic, social, and political norms of the Age of Enlightenment or Neoclassicism, and also a reaction against the scientific rationalization of nature. Romanticism believed in the intrinsic ability of mankind to understand nature and its phenomena. Neoclassicism, Romanticism also a reaction against neoclassicism, which is emotional restraint, order, logic, elegance of diction, clarity, dignity, and decorum. So in Romanticism there is no concise and no limited space. There is freedom, there is imagination, so which beyond logic and which connect us to the spirituality and also connect us to the nature. The rise of industrial revolution and urbanization are also the causes of Romanticism. Characteristics of Romanticism. Romanticism was partly a reaction to the Industrial Revolution, the social and political norms of the Age of Enlightenment, and the scientific rationalization of nature, all components of modernity. So which already I have explained. So now just get some specific characteristics of Romantic literature or Romanticism. So number one is individuality, democracy, and personal freedom. I is more important than we in Romantic literature. Another characteristic is spiritual, supernatural, and Gothic elements you will find in Romantic literature. You also find nature as a teacher, interest in past history, ancient Greek and Roman elements, celebration of the simple life, interest in folk traditions, use of common language, and use of subjects rather than objects or matters, one-sided and opinionated or personal or subjective, idealized women are portrayed in Romantic literature, frequent use of personification, metaphor or simile are also used in Romantic literature, examination of the poet's inner feelings, which is subjective, and as symbol in Romantic literature there are uses of love, death, peace, etc., which are spiritual rather than materialistic ones. So now let me introduce you to some major poets and authors of Romantic literature. The major poets are William Blake, William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So these two poets, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, they together wrote lyrical ballads and introduced the Romantic movement. And other Romantic poets, major Romantic poets are John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Lord Byron, George Gordon, Lord Byron. And the authors, essayists, novelists are like Goethe, Sir Walter Scott, Mary Shelley, Victor Hugo, Jane Austen, and Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb is an essayist. Jane Austen is a novelist. So selected authors whom you are going to study are Jane Austen's novel, John Keats and Lord Byron. So John Keats and Lord Byron are poets and Jane Austen are novelists. Jane Austen is a novelist. So here is the portraits of some poets and authors in the Romantic era, just for illustrative purpose only. John Keats, the portrait of John Keats. John Keats, born on 31st October 1795 and died on 23rd February 1821, was an English poet prominent in the second generation of Romantic poets with Lord Byron and Percy Bysshe Shelley. Although his poems had been in publication for less than 4 years when he died of tuberculosis, at the age of 25, only 25, he died of tuberculosis. Just mind it, okay? Remember it. They were indifferently received during his lifetime, but his fame grew rapidly after his death. Notable works of John Keats. John Keats wrote sonnets, odes, and epics. All his greatest poetry was written in a single year, 1819. Lamia, the Eve of St. Agnes, the great odes, like Ode on Indolence, on a Grecian urn, to Psyche, to a Nightingale, on Melancholy, and to Autumn, and the two unfinished versions of an epic on Hyperion. His cause of death was tuberculosis, literary movement, Romanticism, that we are in. The portrait of Lord Byron belonged to a noble family. George Gordon Lord Byron, 6th Baron Byron, FRS, title bestowed to him, born on 22nd January 1788 and died on 19 April 1824. Simply known as Lord Byron, was an English poet and peer, one of the leading figures of the Romantic movement. Byron is regarded as one of the greatest English poets. He remains widely read and influential. Among his best-known works are the lengthy narrative poems Don Juan that you are going to study in this semester with me, and Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. You are not going to study this, but on your own you can do it. Many of his shorter lyrics in Hebrew melodies also became popular. So he was born in London, England, and died in Missolonghi, Aetolia, or the Ottoman Empire, present-day Aetolia or Anatolia, Acarnania, Greece. Resting place, Church of St. Mary Magdalena, Hucknall, Nottinghamshire, and alma mater Trinity College, Cambridge. The portrait of Jane Austen that you can see on the screen. Jane Austen, the short biography of Jane Austen. Jane Austen was an English novelist known primarily for her 6 major novels, which interpret, critique, and comment upon the British landed gentry at the end of 18th century. Austen's plots often explored the dependence of women on marriage in the pursuit of favorable social standing and economic security. And Jane Austen was against this ideology of women, and he pursued the women to make their own identity in the society. That was the major gist in all his novels, in all her novels. She was born on 16th December 1775 in Stavanger, United Kingdom or UK. Died on 18 July 1817, Winchester, United Kingdom. And her school of thought is literary realism. Her notable works, 6 novels, are Sense and Sensibility, 1811, published in 1811. Pride and Prejudice, that you are supposed to study in this semester with me, published in 1813. Mansfield Park, 1814, Nima, 1815, and Persuasion and Northanger Abbey, both published in 1817. And with the short biography of Jane Austen, Lord Byron, and John Keats that you are supposed to study in Romantic Literature 2 ENG 409. Okay, I'm going to end this lesson of week 1. Thank you very much for being with me. So more lesson you will get in the next week. So until then, goodbye.